This video was brought to you by Squarespace. And then some. Before we get started, I want to make a few things very clear for the early TLDW commenters who saw the title and thumbnail and want to jump to conclusions. 1. I am not claiming that Mario Kart World is a failure. Far, far, far from it. At the time of this recording, it has already reached the upper echelons of video game sales and will most likely make the best-selling games of all time list sometime in the next, couple years. 2. I do not believe Mario Kart World is a bad game. Also, far from it. Go watch my review for my full thoughts, but I think in many ways it's phenomenal. The gameplay is twice as fun as Mario Kart has ever been in my eyes. I think it's so polished and the new mechanics are so much fun that going back to the older games is gonna feel like going back to plain scrambled eggs after having an omelet. Like, scrambled eggs are great, but come on. And even if the open world has problems, it's still a great achievement from a design perspective, and it's a lot of fun to cruise around in. At its core, Mario Kart World is an awesome game, and the biggest evolution of the series since the jump to 3D. 3. Nintendo has definitely messed up other games more badly than this one. Overall, they got real design chops, naturally, but they do miss the mark from time to time, and they've put out other games that were more poorly designed than Mario Kart World. Like, for instance, whichever game would make you most mad for me to say. But what I want to convey in this here internet video is that I believe, considering the Mario Kart pedigree, considering Nintendo's own skill, considering the monumental importance of this title, I think one could make the case that they have never screwed up this badly. They have never fumbled the execution of a game this hard. I know that's kind of an extreme claim, but bear with me. Despite being a Wii U port, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe became the best-selling game on Switch and one of Nintendo's best-selling games of all time, netting them an unfathomable amount of money. They put out a lot of games with broad appeal, but nothing appeals to more human beings than Mario Kart. It's so accessible, so approachable. Anyone and everyone can pick it up and immediately start having fun. It's the perfect party game. It's a game you can confidently buy for any kid. When you get a new Nintendo system and you're trying to figure out what to buy, you just want something fun to play with, it's always gonna be a safe bet. Mario Kart is just fun. Well, the Switch never got its own Mario Kart. We were stuck with 8 for the whole entire long generation. The longest in Nintendo history, might I remind you. So when they announced that a new Mario Kart was coming at last, and it was gonna be a launch title for the Switch 2, to say the pressure was on Nintendo to deliver would be an understatement. Both the fans and the investors, I'm sure, were expecting something big. And to their credit, Nintendo did cook up something pretty big. I mean, we all know they really could have just pumped out another regular old Mario Kart with a couple new ideas and power-ups and stuff and called it a day, and it would have still been plenty popular and made them plenty of money. So it's commendable that after such a huge gap between releases, they really wanted to do something special. They wanted to give Mario Kart its big Breath of the Wild moment. That moment when a very old series is completely refreshed and blown up into an experience that feels truly modern, completely impossible on previous hardware. And again, you can't deny that what Nintendo did is impressive from a design perspective. Sure, there have been other open-world driving games. They didn't break new ground here, technically speaking. But this was not a lazy endeavor. They clearly spent a long time creating this world. This was one of those lengthy, just years and years long dev cycles where they play around and iterate and try to get things just right. But despite their lofty expectations for the very first open-world Mario Kart, I think that open world is at the crux of the issue. And this is the first way I feel Nintendo fumbled the game. They seem to have wildly misjudged the appeal this world would offer players. Or maybe more accurately, they misjudged what an open world needs in order to be appealing. Before we continue discussing how multi-billion-dollar corporation at height of success did bad, actually, a quick reminder that this video was brought to you by Squarespace. I needed a website where I could recommend things to my beautiful followers, but I did not know how to build a website because such a thing sounded very scary, and I don't know how to code, and I refused to learn. Well, you know what? Squarespace had my back. Whether you've been in the game for a long time or you're a newbie like me, there is no faster and easier way to build a site. The intuitive builder lets you make your site however you want it, adding text and embedding pics and videos and other graphics, formatting and tweaking, it's all super simple. You can build almost anything, even something nice and fancy for your business if you like. Me, I am a simple blogger. I just draft up my posts, schedule them to automatically publish, and even push to social media at predetermined dates, and I'm good to go. Even running my site is easy. And if I ever need more, Squarespace offers many powerful extensions, and let's not forget about the analytics. They're built right in. I love them. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial. Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now, for today's recommendation, this video from Big Think. Big Think offers a bounty of wonderful, accessible educational content. And this one on loneliness and making friends as an adult offers a tremendous amount of insight in one highly condensed video. Come for the self-help, stay for the mind-blowing talks on the nature of reality. Thanks again to Squarespace. Now please continue watching this video so full of great, smart opinions. Their games often eschew more traditional progression systems like RPG mechanics or achievement lists and whatnot in favor of systems that naturally inspire intrinsic motivation. They want your desire to engage with their game to be emergent, not based as much on external or extrinsic rewards. And they do very often succeed. Breath of the Wild is probably the very best example of that, of encouraging engagement without dangling cookies in front of the player. I think that's what they were going for with Mario Kart World. And I also think that they did not really consider how much of a gamble they were taking in doing this. This world just doesn't have a lot going on. There are collectibles, but they don't really do anything. There are no significant rewards for grabbing them, and at first you couldn't even track which ones you'd gotten. It seems that Nintendo was so insistent on the journey mattering more than the destination that we couldn't even get a list for our pickups. And I've talked about this loads of times. Basically, I get that plenty of people are totally cool with this kind of thing. You can collect this stuff if you want, but it's not required, and the fun is its own reward. In a perfect world, maybe we would all feel that way, but it's just not how everyone's brains work. Sometimes we need a little extra motivation. We want to work towards something. We want to get them all, which feels completely impossible without a guide when you have no idea where those last few pickups are, and it would take hours and hours combing the map to find them. Nintendo did end up patching in a proper tracking system, but personally, I've not found the motivation to dive back into the game and start hunting. I don't know, I might have done it on day one, but the momentum is kind of dead for me, and I have to wonder how many others might feel the same way. But that's small potatoes. The lack of collectible tracking wasn't the biggest problem. The real problem was, and is, that these P-switches and coins and panels are basically it. This is all there is to do in this world. There are no other real challenges, no goals to work toward, nothing major to unlock. There are NPCs all over the place, but none of them say or do anything. It seems that Nintendo really did expect things to be like they were in the marketing material. They thought friends would want to just drive around and chat with each other. They would create their own stories. But I don't know, man. That didn't really happen. I have no doubt that there have been people who have done this, you know, played around with each other and had fun exploring the world. It's just that there isn't really anything to explore, is there? Not a lot of interesting stuff to find. Breath of the Wild, this ain't. The game doesn't have enough crazy systems to create these emergent experiences Nintendo wants. When they revealed the game, I thought the idea of an open-world Mario Kart was a dream come true. I'm not really big on racing, so this was exactly what the game needed to do to grab my attention. And you know, I do like driving around this world. It is fun just to cruise about, taking in the sights, and maybe doing a few P-switch challenges for like 20 minutes. And then when nothing really interesting happens, I get full and I'm done. For the most part, this really is just a glorified lobby to mess around in while you're waiting for an online match. I think the big issue here is the game's potential and player expectation. Strictly speaking, this big world should be nothing but a plus, something that only adds to the experience. No other Mario Kart game has an online lobby this cool, but with games there's this weird psychological thing where if you present an idea with a lot of potential, but you don't realize that potential, the player can be left with a feeling of dissatisfaction they wouldn't have otherwise felt if the idea wasn't presented at all. I feel the desert in Metroid Prime 4 is a good recent example. If all the game's areas were connected together with nothing between, it really wouldn't magically fix the game, but I think it would have been a lot less contentious. But when you stick this big empty desert in the middle, driving around here takes up very little of the game. It's really just like Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time. It's just a place between places. You rarely spend more than a few minutes here at a time, but it does something to a player's brain. Suddenly it's like, why is there nothing here? Why did they put this here? There's this feeling that the designers maybe wanted to create something like an open world in this Metroid game of all things, but failed to pull it off. And it brings the game down. This perceived failure of design is practically all anyone talks about. It's the game's whole identity. Mario Kart World's world should be nothing but a plus. But instead, I'm left wondering why they bothered to put in all this work to create this huge place. Why they toyed with turning Mario Kart into something much bigger than ever, but then pulled back at the last second and instead delivered something that is essentially just a big jungle gym. I drive around expecting to make actual discoveries, to affect the world in some way, to be given tasks to complete. In my mind's eye, I see some kind of simple story, some cool characters, something. But it's just not there. And the missed potential brings the game down. Again, the empty world is the only thing anyone talks about. Whereas if they hadn't given us the world in the first place, we'd all be like, wow, look at this gameplay and all these characters. Isn't the new Mario Kart cool? And to misjudge the appeal of a game's hook is fine. I mean, it happens. But the point I'm trying to make is that to misjudge and underdeliver so dramatically, to spend so many years creating something that ultimately doesn't even feel like that much of a selling point, in this case, this is Mario Kart. This is Mario Kart, the first brand new one in 11 years. If history repeats itself, the single most important game that will ever land on Switch 2, available on day one. The enormous push to kickstart an entire generation, the rocket fuel to blast it off. Not just a new generation, but the follow-up to their most wildly successful generation ever. For this game's big hook to ultimately feel kind of unimportant. It's like if Nintendo spent 6 years on Tears of the Kingdom, which they did, just because Ultra Hand was so complex, they spent an entire extra year just polishing it up, and then they released it, and no one cared about the mechanic at all. Like, they just ignored it. No one even talked about it. It would be like if Nintendo hyped up and released Splatoon, and everyone was like, the shooting each other part is good, but inking the ground and swimming through it, A Twitter poll is not an incredibly strong source of data, I'll admit, but I did a series of polls just to get a basic vibe check among my followers. And at least among these fine folks right here, the overwhelming majority bought the game either because it's Mario Kart or because it was bundled. And only a tiny percentage felt that the open world was a big deal. It's a big if, a towering if. But if these polls reflect the general consensus whatsoever, then Nintendo spent years and years trying to create a Mario Kart with a wild left-field next-gen hook and just kinda didn't pull it off. Now, I'll admit, maybe I'm assuming too much here. Maybe giving Mario Kart its big Breath of the Wild moment was never their intention. Maybe they did exactly what they set out to do. Maybe they never wanted more than this, a glorified lobby for friends to mess around in between matches. But again, Player expectation matters. Realizing potential matters. And in this current landscape, internet discourse isn't everything, but it sure is something. And here, still very early in the generation, the entire conversation surrounding Mario Kart World is messy. There's this pervasive feeling that the game just didn't quite land the way it should have. The Switch 2 is still selling well, but I think such a misfire on day one, especially when combined with all these other controversies, has set things on a weird track. No pun intended. This big new Mario Kart should have been nothing but cause for celebration. One of those pivotal moments in the history of Nintendo's new system. But instead, pretty much all you see is complaints. And it's not just that the open world feels too empty. The vast majority of players seem to hate being forced onto all these intermission tracks, as they're called, when racing online. Nintendo, on the other hand, seemed to be particularly proud of this feature. I think they felt it was kind of the whole point of this new game. Again, they've dramatically misjudged the game's appeal, and it's been this long and bloody battle with players trying to figure out how to get 3 regular old laps on a regular old track, and Nintendo not wanting to give it to them. The company has conceded somewhat and increased the likelihood of regular races. But let me just ask a question. Why are they fighting with their players again? Why is this happening at all? This is ridiculous. They are literally trying to force an experience that the vast majority of players do not want. Which leads us to the second way I feel Nintendo has really fumbled Mario Kart World, and it's very much related to the first way. Once again, it's about expectation and potential, and I want to briefly highlight another game with a similar story. No one, not even Nintendo, could have ever anticipated that Animal Crossing New Horizons would blow up the way it did. If Switch 2 and its games landed at an unfortunate time in history, New Horizons was the opposite. The planets aligned for Nintendo. This was a stroke of luck, the likes of which they will probably never see again. Launching right at the start, just exactly at the start of a global pandemic, right when the Switch install base was really rolling, and everyone was locked up at home looking for some good old escapism. Now, one could probably argue that New Horizons suffered from Mario Kart World's first problem as well, launching in a somewhat bare state that disappointed many players. However, they did update the game a lot, and even from day one, it offered a ton of island customizability, the likes of which the series had never seen before. I may be a casual fan, but I was actually quite happy with it for a good while. But for the sake of conversation, let's say the content on offer was fine. It was enough. I mean, everyone was playing it, so clearly it was enough. The big problem is that suddenly Nintendo had this massive game. I mean, it felt like the entire world was playing it. This was how people were connecting with each other when they couldn't visit in person. It became this social craze. Nintendo, unfortunately, being Nintendo, hadn't really fleshed out the game's online features. It was still a big pain to visit someone else's island. Communication features were very limited, and people loved the world, but were looking for more stuff to do. Any other company in the world, any other company would have gotten to work right away, improving the game, improving the online, developing regular content drops. Like, Nintendo basically had the next hit MMO on their hands. It just fell into their lap, the kind of opportunity that rich executives dream about at night. So what did they do with this opportunity? What did Nintendo do? Jack diddly squat! New Horizons got some basic updates over time. It got all the content that Nintendo had clearly been planning since the beginning, but it didn't really get much else. And they sure as sugar didn't improve the online experience. Nope, they just stayed the course and treated this like any old Animal Crossing game. 1 in a million lightning in a bottle chance to take something really massive and blow it up even more? Nah. Business as usual for Nintendo. clock out, cash the check, and call it a day. And I can imagine the CEOs of the other big companies were watching the Animal Crossing situation and just slobbering, just punching their couch cushions and screaming their heads off as Nintendo just let this opportunity pass them by. These guys would have hired a dedicated team just to work on nothing but Animal Crossing for the foreseeable future. They would have fast-tracked development on the next content drops and season passes. They would have given the game all the online trimmings. And of course, they would have stuffed it to the gills with cosmetic microtransactions. Now, I actually appreciate that Nintendo is a little old-fashioned. One reason they're doing so well is precisely because they're not constantly chasing that elusive live service dream. It's incredible that in this day and age, in this climate, they are still willing to just make a game, sell it for a price, and move on to something else. The fact that they didn't turn New Horizons into the next hit MMO, this investor's dream come true, is a testament to their values. But, like, couldn't they have considered a happy medium here? You know, the players were begging for more. This game was so close to being something so huge, something that could have grown and thrived with an active, happy community all the way until the next game, or maybe forever if Nintendo wanted. They could have just kept updating this one with new content. I mean, it's laudable that Nintendo was satisfied with the very large sum of money that they made from New Horizons, that they didn't need to chase more. But when you're leaving money on the table and the fans are left hungry, as a business, you've kind of messed something up here. New Horizons was a massive craze. It was poised to overtake even Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in sales. For a minute there, it looked like it might become one of the biggest things in the world of gaming. But when Nintendo failed to capitalize on that early success, things slowed down. The game had legs. It still sold really well over time. Very, very good attach rate with new Switch purchases. But the conversation largely dried up. Millions and millions of people had their fun and then got done with the game and moved on. Again, if Nintendo just didn't want to turn New Horizons into a live service game, I get it. And that's cool, but it wouldn't have taken much to at least improve the social features, add in some more multiplayer-focused content. I mean, personally, I would have spent loads of time hanging out in my friends' towns, treating the game like this cool social hub, but I couldn't be bothered to connect much at all. It was too annoying, too limited. I played the game for a bit, a pretty good bit, and then got bored and bounced. And all this to say, we're seeing a very similar situation right now with Mario Kart World. It's not seeing the same kind of unprecedented, right place at the right time, lightning in a bottle early success, but for all the reasons outlined earlier, a lot is riding on this game. The potential is huge. And yeah, historically, Nintendo just hasn't really been interested in turning Mario Kart into some big competitive online experience. I guess they like to keep it a little more casual, and I get that to an extent. But once more, we circle back to player expectation. For a company that doesn't want to deliver a big online experience, Nintendo sure is acting like one that does. What is game chat for if not playing with your friends? What is this big open world for if not creating experiences to share with those friends? Why are you presenting the new Mario Kart as this big modern new experience and still failing to deliver on that promise? I mean, it practically goes without saying, but on top of the empty world, online features are still sorely lacking. We still have barely any options. We still don't have any kind of real progression system like, you know, every other online game ever? And perhaps most egregious of all, the thing I cannot fathom, I simply cannot understand. Where are the events? At first I thought, okay, so the world is pretty empty. The game has no real campaign mode that utilizes it. Fine, but of course we're gonna start getting cool events, right? Like Splatoon? These big team tournaments to recharge the whole conversation and get people hopping back into the game over and over again? Or how about events and things you gotta find in the world itself? Keep the world changing, drop in all these little mysteries, sprinkle in challenges. For 1 week only, we've got players racing from this track to this track, trying to beat each other's times, rank high enough, and earn a medal for your profile. This weekend, there's a golden Goomba hidden somewhere in the world. Go find it to unlock a skin or something. Throughout the whole month of May, there are red coins hidden all over the place. Grab 100 and get an achievement. Just something. But at the time of this recording, somehow, Nintendo has done none of this. It's been nearly a year since the game launched. Nearly a year. And all we've gotten is a tiny handful of little nothing events no one even talked about. Little region-locked things that have come and gone with zero fanfare. Even stepping away from the event argument for just a moment, we haven't even gotten new characters and battle modes and stuff. They've given us some pretty good patches that make the game better, sure. But where's the excitement? Where's the hype? DK Bonanza's Emerald Rush DLC has been getting more events than Mario Kart World. There is more hype for Emerald Rush right now. How? Why? And trust me, this isn't simply a case of a greedy player who's been spoiled by all these constantly updating live service games. I'm not even that invested in Mario Kart, truth be told. But like, I kinda liked the idea of being more invested. I liked the idea of being called back to the game every once in a while and enjoying it with everybody. Like with Splatoon. All the events and the hype, that's what keeps me coming back. It's just that it's hard to see Nintendo's overly simplistic vision for what they're presenting as this big thing. What could be this big thing? It's like they insist on not having their cake and not eating it too. And look, I know they will update the game. Right now, it's May. I would not be surprised in the slightest if next month we get a big direct and they announce some big update for Mario Kart World. Maybe even some fancy DLC. But the Switch 2 generation has been so weird. The system is selling well, but there's this pervasive sense that Nintendo is not really delivering what we expected. They're not making as much of a case for their new system as one would hope. We thought the system would just explode out of the gate, and there would be another huge Switch craze, everyone playing, everyone scrambling to pick up a system. But instead, we got a Mario Kart that feels weirdly empty and lacking in content for a modern game, especially one with so much potential. We've spent nearly a year without anything new. If they do give us some stuff soon, then it's just weird that we had to wait a year for something to actually do. I get that this stuff takes time, but you had time. A lot of it. This game took forever. Oh, and if they dare to charge for new content, especially content that actually utilizes the world, it's going to be a very, very bad PR day. I can tell you that much. You cannot deliver a kind of empty, boring experience and then charge for the privilege of it being interesting. I mean, like, if you're gonna charge $80 for a game, an unprecedented amount of money, players need to feel completely satisfied before you start trying to wring more moolah out of them. I mean, geez, we haven't even brought up the $80 thing yet. I mean, it's like every Mario Kart is just a bunch of tracks with nothing to do but race with other people and no other content or progression system or anything. What more do you want? Well, for $80? I don't know, but more than this, Nintendo still hasn't managed to justify that price. A few years from now, we could be looking at a completely different game. You may even be watching this right now and thinking, boy, this video aged like milk. But one last time, my point is not that Mario Kart World is a failure or a bad game. Nintendo very well may have huge plans for it. I mean, this absolutely is something they're gonna support in one way or another through the entire generation. It's just that they really needed to hit this one out of the park, and they simply did not do it. They misjudged the appeal of the game, have even fought the players over it, and have failed to build it up as an unmissable experience. A reason anyone and everyone should be dying to pick up a Switch 2. Considering the stakes, I just think there's a chance they've never messed something up quite this badly. Just like Animal Crossing New Horizons, Mario Kart World feels like one of Nintendo's biggest, most wildly profitable and successful screw-ups ever. But however you feel about Mario Kart World, please let me know down in the comments. Please also be kind though, because I am only 7 years old.